can we test something out to make sure she's not getting feedback?
Does it sound any better?
Sounds really loud.
Okay, so I think what it is if I'm moving around and speaking, you get feedback, but if I'm still, you don't.
Okay then.
It's your speaker picking up what's coming out of our microphone and then re-microphoning it.
That's a technical term.
I couldn't think of
We're
it.
live here, so anyway.
Okay, 7 o'clock, call the meeting to order. The town of Vermont acknowledges the Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respect to our First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reconfirm our relationship with one another. The agenda, are there any additions to the agenda? Not, someone move the agenda as presented.
Also move.
Councilor. Everybody second? Second, Councilor Turner. All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, we'll move to minutes of the May 9th meeting. Any errors or omissions? If not, someone move the minutes as presented.
I will so move.
By Councilor Bashara, second by Councilor Hunt. Those in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Okay, we'll move right into delegations from council. I noticed we have our presenter on the screen. Welcome to our meeting, and we're all ears.
So your worship, council, this is Samantha Blatz and Jonathan Pradnak, both from Scatlett Miller Murray, the consulting company that was retained by the town of Orange to conduct the downtown revitalization plan exercise, which we've been working on since October of last year, and they're here to present what is pretty much the final report. We'll have some ongoing discussions and whatnot, as part of that with council and the downtown revitalization committee, and start working on a course of action to start implementing some of these action items and recommendations from there. But we're here tonight to hear what they have to say about it and present the plan to council for the first time here. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jeff. Okay, Samantha, you can take it away.
Okay, thanks Jeff, thanks everybody for having us. Like Jeff said, I'm Samantha Blatz. This is my colleague John, and we're going to take you through a brief presentation on the plan, and then we'll have some time for questions and discussion if there's any clarifications or discussion that anybody needs. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Can everybody see that? Okay, there we go. Let's get right into it. Looking at the purpose of the plan and the plan creation process, the purpose of this plan was to establish key issues and priorities through extensive analysis and engagement, to define a shared vision for the growth and evolution of the downtown, and then to identify strategies for implementing the plan and for achieving the vision. And the plan process was achieved through roughly 3 stages. So the first, project initiation and background, and that included the project launch, the background review, and some preliminary community engagement, which was stakeholder interviews, meetings with the steering committee, and an online public community survey. And then the second stage, visioning and directions, was the background and directions report, which included all of a summary of all of our background review, and then draft a high-level review of what the recommendations would be coming up, and we reviewed those with the steering committee again. And then the third stage focused on plan preparation, so that was developing the draft plan, from which we took the draft recommendations, brought them to a public open house, and chatted with some folks there, and then took all of that feedback and feedback from the steering committee, and finalized the plan, which is what you are seeing today. So a few further details on the community engagement process that we did. These key themes that you're seeing here, what we heard, this is coming from conversations with the steering committee, with stakeholder interviews, and the 225 public survey responses that we received on the online community survey. So from folks, we're hearing a need for focus on safety and cleanliness, for facade improvements, incentives for businesses, mitigation measures for barriers to development, further connections to the waterfront. Tourism, we kind of heard two sides to this. One side, the need to bring tourists into the downtown, maybe people who are passing through, how to get them to stay, but then also noting that L'Orange is for L'Orange residents and for the folks who are there, and we need to make sure that it is it's not just for tourists, it's also for the folks who are living in L'Orange. Next, we heard about people wanting improvements to the streetscapes and beautification, improvements and expansions to social supports, expansions to arts and culture and how to make that more visible in the downtown, and then expansion to recreation opportunities in the downtown area. And then some further public engagement, like I said, later in the process we had the public open house where we presented the draft recommendations, and there we had about 50 attendees. Some of you who were there. So looking at the overall plan vision and the plan priorities, this kind of lays the foundation for the plan, and the recommendations are built off of this vision. So the plan vision on the scenic shores of Lac Orange, downtown Orange, is a sustainable, beautiful, accessible, inclusive, and safe destination where economic and cultural vitality thrives throughout the year. And then to bring that big vision into one more kind of step of focus, we have the plan priorities, 4 of them here. So the first, downtown is sustainable and beautiful. It's a resilient and attractive place that embraces the waterfront and respects the region's rich natural landscape. The downtown is for everyone. It's a safe place for residents and visitors that prioritizes quality of life for everyone, regardless of ethnicity, gender, class, age, ability, or other identity. Downtown is for business and development. It's a thriving place that supports a strong local economy where businesses, infrastructure, and amenities are connected and coordinated. And then lastly, downtown is where culture and fun flourish. It's a positive place that offers a wide variety of artistic, cultural, and recreational experiences. So where this is kind of the narrative version of the vision, we next get into the more visual version of the vision. Sorry, there's a lot of these. So here we get into another step of focus of how do we make that vision and those plan priorities implementable. So in the legend, if you can see that, we have 2 sections. The first one being connections and placemaking, and the second being key development opportunities. So this first section, phase 1 of the Reimagine L'Orange Avenue, which is this yellow strip here, as well as the intersection improvements here, the proposed pathways along the waterfront, and maybe an expansion to that pathway further into the future, and then this connection to the future highway development. All of these initiatives are more about placemaking, streetscaping, kind of beautifying aesthetics, creating an attractive and welcoming and comforting experience downtown, and as well as mobility and connections, so helping people move around downtown and get to the places that they need to go. And then the second set on the legend here, the key development opportunities, more about larger scale development. So the first one we have is waterfront development, this blue circle here, imagining this would be a mixed use development, so commercial on the ground floor, residential up top, and then potentially some hospitality, like a restaurant, and maybe tourism and recreation opportunities to bring people to the waterfront. The second one we have is the Gateway Commercial Node. So within the plan, we have some recommendations about the gateway sign and how to integrate further public art into that. But then also the opportunity that potentially this is an option for larger format retail or larger format hospitality, such as a motel or hotel. The third one in that category is residential development, and so that's off on the other end of the downtown. It's a little bit further away from kind of the hustle and bustle of the main strip over here, and has a really nice connection to the waterfront, so it'd be a perfect place for residential development to bring more folks to the downtown as residents. And then the last piece we have here is commercial and mixed-use development, so these red circles here. those areas we noted some underutilized sites, and so those areas could be right for some redevelopment or new construction as commercial and mixed use bring more folks and more businesses to the downtown. So next, every layer is just another layer of detail. So next, get into the strategies that try to help this design concept be more implementable. So we have 10 strategies altogether, and they're organized under these 3 main categories, which we feel are essential for creating the environment for change. So the first category, improving conditions for investment, is about creating conditions that are conducive for private development and investment. The second category, reducing the cost of development. So this is about using fiscal tools and incentive programs to offset development costs for business owners and for developers. And then the last, reducing the risks of development. So this is about providing certainty in the planning and development approvals process. Getting into the strategies, the first one we'll look at is the implement a streetscape revitalization strategy. And if we look back to the design concept, we see phase 1 of the reimagined L'Orange Avenue is this yellow strip here. And we see this being a more detailed site plan of that kind of 3-block stretch. So here we have focused more, like I said, on the placemaking and streetscaping elements. So improvements to the intersections with corner billboards, more visible crosswalks, improvements to the planting along here that create a bit of a parkway along the sidewalk, making it more attractive for people to be walking, as well as widening the sidewalk, which is currently quite narrow for people to be walking side by side or with strollers or assistive devices. And then some diagonal parking to contribute to a parking management plan. There's a few more details. I won't go into all of them. It's just the main highlights of that. And then we'll see in this next slide, you can see this section cut here at the red line, and is this section here. So the top drawing is showing the existing roadway, and the bottom drawing is showing the reimagined L'Orange Avenue. So you'll see that the roadway for vehicles is narrowed slightly so that the sidewalks can be expanded for planting and for patio areas, and then also potentially some upgraded lighting along the stretch. One of the things we heard from folks is that it's quite dark, and we experienced that when we were there in the winter months, that it is quite dark at night, and people are looking for more lighting. So beyond just the kind of reimagined elements of the site plan here, that first strategy also talks about a streetscaping kit. One of the things that we kind of encountered with reimagining L'Orange Avenue is that it's a very long stretch. It's hard to kind of do all of that in one go, and so we've kind of created little chunks that can be done as funding is available. So this is one larger chunk, this 3-block stretch, but the streetscaping kit allows for more smaller placemaking nodes, maybe in front of or beside businesses, that all together contribute to a cohesive design theme, because they're all using the same elements, the same plantings, and the same furnishings, so that even though it's done in small sections, eventually it does create a cohesive stretch. Moving into the next strategy, preserve and promote heritage, cultural landscapes, and landmarks. This is about identifying those sites and buildings that are worthy of recognition because of their historic value, and then promoting those to residents and visitors within the downtown, and then also helping those developers who want to redevelop those sites, making sure that those historical elements are being preserved, but that they're still getting a little more life and use and contributing to the vibrancy of downtown. Strategy number 3, develop a shoreline strategy and action plan. So L'Orange already has a fairly robust shoreline use policy. So this strategy encourages further implementation of that policy, but then also expands on that to talk about land acquisition along the waterfront. So having a strategy to target lands along the waterfront as they become available for acquisition, to create kind of a cohesive waterfront area and to bring more public access to the waterfront, which is something we heard from folks that they're really looking for. And then also helps with mitigation and rehabilitation strategies to just preserve the shoreline. The next one, strategy 4, implementation of the recommendations from the Parks and Trails Master Plan. So the La Ronge Parks and Trails Master Plan was finalized in 2022, yes. It had lots of good recommendations for parks and trails, and a lot of them were very relevant to the downtown, included all of the downtown parks and some trail systems that can come downtown. So we've taken the relevant recommendations from that plan, we've put them into this plan, added a few more things that kind of connect to the reimagined La Ronge Avenue, and also some recommendations on prioritization. But we've heard some really good feedback on that plan, so we didn't want to let those things go to waste and didn't want to duplicate all of the good efforts that had already been done with the community. Strategy 5, support the health and well-being of the downtown community. So through our engagement efforts, some of the things we heard is that there's a lot of social issues and challenges that are being faced by folks in La Ronge and in surrounding communities, and many people are coming to downtown La Ronge to spend time and to access services. And people are wanting to see more social supports and see a safer downtown. And while these issues, addictions and mental health and houselessness, they're not going to be solved with a design strategy or even a full, robust downtown revitalization plan, but we do think that there are some smaller initiatives that can be and are put into this plan that can help create a safer environment downtown for all folks. So some of those include working with social service providers, working with the RCMP, looking for pursuing funding for a permanent shelter, whether that's downtown or maybe on some other town-owned lands, working with the RCMP and service providers to create a Safe Walk program. There's been a lot of Safe Walk programs administered throughout Canada, and the training that the ambassadors can receive can cover a lot of the issues that folks are facing, and so some of that can be CPR and basic first aid, and can be crisis intervention, and some are trained to administer naloxone and harm reduction. So there's a lot that can be done through those ambassadors and just like creating a presence that is safe and comforting for all the folks who are downtown. Strategy 6, develop a system for data gathering, monitoring, and evaluation. So this is a critical step in kind of assessing the progress and the success of initiatives. One of the kind of issues that we faced as we came through this is that there's a lot of northern communities in Canada that don't necessarily have the granular level of data that larger cities do, that they get from the province or the federal government. And so putting a system in place to have that data on your own, whether it's town staff doing that work or whether it's gathering that data from businesses and organizations who are gathering data from their customers, from tourists. Sometimes it can just be like a bit of an amalgamation of all those data sets. And then using those data sets to measure your progress, to measure success, to figure out where there are gaps in existing service delivery, and then communicating all of that to the public to either show the public, this is why we're doing this initiative, this is why we need this, or to show the public this is how this has succeeded. It's a really good communication tool, and people really respond well to that. And then the last one on this page in this category, strategy 7, promote and celebrate the downtown's revitalization. So this kind of has two parts to it, and it's a little bit related to what I was talking about in strategy 6. The first part being working with individuals, groups, organizations, and departments to find those champions for each of these strategies. To find the people who are going to be, passionate for these and going to help move progress along and bring energy and good ideas to what you're doing. So it's not all the town's work. It is also working with organizations and individuals in the town to bring that community together. And then the second part of that, which I was talking about with the successes from the data gathering, is communicating to the public. So there's a few things in here that we've put in that are short-term wins. And so when you can really communicate and celebrate those short-term wins quickly as they're implemented, show the public that this plan is getting implemented and it's being successful, and then you can really get buy-in for those strategies that do take a little bit longer and aren't as readily seen. It is a little bit easier to see when a banner goes up, but some of those things like permitting approvals, not so hard to show. to success. So promoting and celebrating the downtown is really about showing when those successes happen so everyone can be involved in celebrating that. And then the last three strategies, the strategy 8 here falls under the category of reducing the cost of development. So identify and implement incentives to retain and attract downtown businesses. So within the plan, we've included a few incentive programs that can be implemented, ideally first on a pilot project basis to kind of see how those go, and then using data gathering to figure out, are these working, are these not working, how they can be tweaked. So those incentive programs that we've recommended involve facade and storefront improvements, which is more aesthetic on the outsides of buildings, commercial space improvements, which is more small scale reservations, major redevelopment, which is more about redevelopment and new development downtown, new construction, which could be residential, mixed use, or commercial. And then the last one is three-season patio conversion. So firstly, that's about expanding patios where maybe there aren't any, and then also expanding existing patios into the shoulder seasons. And then the last two strategies under reducing the risks of development, they're kind of connected. The first one, strategy 9, initiate official community plan, OCP, and zoning bylaw amendments. So the OCP and zoning bylaw amendments and reviews are often done together, which is why we listed them here together. Within the plan, we've noted a few guiding recommendations, I guess, that would be helpful for that review. It would help implement the downtown revitalization plan. So we've put some stuff in here that can be considered when that OCP and zoning bylaw review happens to make sure that there aren't any barriers to development, so that the vision here in the plan can be implemented easier. And then the last one, also connected, is streamline development and the permitting approvals process. So one of the things that we had heard through the engagement process is that there are some barriers to development people were facing that was either delaying development or stopping it altogether. And so we've put in some recommendations about streamlining that process and just making it a bit more user-friendly for everyone, a little bit less work on the town side, and also just helping people get their development goals. And then lastly, I'll just do a brief chat about the implementation table. I won't show the whole table here, but just to give you an idea, we have the plan priorities here. So this column will talk about how each of these, or will show how each of these strategies aligns with the plan priorities. We have a time frame for short, medium, and long. So short being 1 to 3 years, medium being 3 to 5 years, and long being 5 years or more. Then we have noted who's going to be leading some of these, or all of these recommendations, but then also who are the potential partners to look to, either for funding or support or just collaborations. And then in this last column, we have budget implications. And so for some of these items, we've put in a order of magnitude cost. And for some where at this level of design detail, it doesn't really make sense to, it's not possible to put in an order of magnitude cost, we've put in some comments about what kind of costing implications and considerations are going to arise as you start to implement those things. Okay, I meant to put in a slide that said questions and I forgot to do that, but now's the moment. Is there any questions?
No, good job. That's not a question, that's a response.
Thank you.
I've got one. It does look good too. Thanks for all the work that's gone into it. But a question about resurfacing streets and changing the size and everything. If any of that's going to be considered, is there also a plan about redoing infrastructure that's underground, that's potentially quite aging in those areas? Has that been a thought in the budgeting process at all?
Yeah, the road resurfacing has been included in the budgeting. I didn't show that here, but there is a budget in the appendix. That's for the road resurfacing. It's not necessarily for upgrades to the infrastructure though we do note that as you consider doing improvements to the streetscaping, you should be looking for those efficiencies. Like if you're going to be doing any road resurfacing and doing any narrowing at the same time, there should be a study that goes into looking at the capacity of those of that infrastructure to make sure that you're not doing all of those things over again in a couple of years. And then one of the things we had also talked about We had some conversations with Sask Power about the power poles along the side and the costing that it would take to underground some of those. So we have some costing associated with that. It is pretty expensive, but it's another thing that sometimes you can seek further funding from the province, and if you can do some of those things in tandem, it does reduce some of the cost. John, anything to add?
No, I was just gonna say that it wasn't really within the scope to consider the infrastructure capacity, although as Sam said, definitely, if you're ever going to turn up street, you should always be checking that out. And I think we were informed that capacity and age is not really a concern, but definitely, that should be monitored through asset management.
I'll just add, if I may, that, staff are aware of some of the deficiencies, some of the materials used in the piping and things of that nature, so that would definitely form part of any RFP for such a project in terms of design and construction.
Just on behalf of the committee, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you guys. Nice to see colleagues. And it turned into a beautiful plan, and I do appreciate that. Also a note on behalf of some of the committee members, I was asked to bring a thank you to Jeff and Lyle for the work on this document as well. So thanks for all the work you put into this. These are some words that somebody provided me. This was not a docile committee, and from the organization to the minutes and the rewrites and the liaising, it must have been absolutely exhausting. So thank you for your efforts. Jeff, we literally wouldn't have this plan without you. Also, Lyle, thank you for your passion after the committee's work was done, and for taking time to make sure that the specific items were improved, even changed, to make sure it's the strong document that we see presented here today. So thank you.
Thanks, Abby.
So after you had your open house, did you make any modifications to your plan? Was that a useful exercise that happened, or?
Yeah, it definitely was. We for sure made some improvements to the plan. There was a few things that people prioritized that we maybe didn't expect as much, and there was a few, like the comment on the infrastructure. There's people who noted about capacity and infrastructure and wanted to make sure that that was covered. A few things in the site plans that were noted that people had details to change, which was really helpful. Yeah, and then a few changes to some of the recommendations. And now off the top of my head, I'm not remembering the exact ones, but I know that there was at least 2 or 3 that we changed.
It was definitely helpful to conduct the initial public survey that was done. It wasn't originally part of the original project, and so the consultants, fortunately for us, were able to undertake that work, and I think we got quite a good turnout. Over 225 people responding to that, so it helped to set the stage. In addition to the discussions with the group around the table, through the steering committee, as well as the stakeholders and whatnot, really helped to provide a nice, well-rounded package of input that was to help us to get started on all this.
Yeah, exactly what Jeff said. All of the public engagement that we did along the way, we got a lot of robust feedback from everyone, from the steering committee, from the online survey, and also from all the conversations that we had at the public open house, and that really.
Okay, we should have a revitalize information.
I'll move.
Councilor Lee, second by Councilor Hunt. Those in favor? Okay, motion carried. Any opposed? Okay, none. Correspondence. Art in the Park. Thank you. Letter.
Yeah, I move to receive and file the letter from Art in the Park and the Art in the Park acknowledgement of all the staff that helped to participate. Is from Vice Chief Slantasani of the Prince Albert Grand Council. There is another one from Chief Tammy Cook-Searson
And there is also one from Chief Town Cook Station of Alakwa on the New Map. There's also another letter from the regional chief for our area, the Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations, Bobby Cameron, echoing the sentiment any extension of hours. Thank you.
So if we were in partnership with the, would we be getting those letters?
I don't think that's the issue at hand, number one. And in response to that, Councillor Hunt, I think if hypothetically, if that were ever a situation, we would have as a council, probably, I'm assuming, we would respect the current bylaw as it stands. We would not be seeking to change it, I would hope.
Just ask.
In terms of consultation, like we had the public process for, we put the survey out, everybody was aware of what was going on, this was out for a week. And it seems like a week is when we get all these letters showing up, and, we've already done a couple of readings, and, most people have decided the issue, which side of it they stand on, and we're well aware of what's in these letters, and the hours are out there, and I think everybody kind of made up their mind as to what they felt would be their position. I would say that if there's a little bit of uncomfort, I thought about it, and we could, if it does get approved, that we have a review in 1 year and see where it goes. In that year, we have a chance to build a relationship with the business community in terms of supporting programs, those kinds of things, and see if that happens, and do a review in a year. I'm just throwing it out there, it's an idea.
No, I just want to clarify that the letter from PPC is from Grand Chief Brian Hardlott, not the Vice Chief, sorry.
Yeah, I've seen the letter, thanks.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, and it doesn't have to just pertain to this, but I do believe that we could better, better our relationship with the band by doing some correspondence and working with them. Better. They are a big part of the community, and I think complete a lot more if we join forces. So conversation is important, out of respect.
Yes, I would agree with Councillor Belly, especially if our opening statement is around acknowledging that we are on First Nations land and territory, and if we are truly working towards reconciliation, we would take into account the voice of 12 First Nations that are part of the Prince Albert Grand Council, represented by them, and by the Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations. At least that would be my humble opinion in the matter.
I guess what's the wishes of council, I guess, in terms of whether we proceed.
Are we on to 8.1?
Delay it,
Are we on to 8.1?
yeah, we've passed the correspondence,
sorry,
now we're moving
7.1.
to
Okay, so we are at
the,
7.1.
request for decision on the bylaw.
Okay.
I'll move the third reading. Get it started.
Okay, is there a second for that motion?
I second it.
Councillor Hunt?
I'll ask that the vote be recorded.
Okay. We'll start.
Can I just?
Yeah, go ahead. Now at the.
Just on this bylaw, currently under our existing bylaw, all 3 liquor retailers are able to operate 11 to 11 Monday to Saturday, and 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays and statutory holidays. That's more hours than the SLGA liquor store operated for a third retailer. I don't think we're restricting or limiting business in maintaining our current hours.
Okay, any other comments before I call the question?
Yeah, I think that we really need to look at delaying this request until proper consultation takes place by all stakeholders affected.
Okay. I'll go around the table. Councillor Hunt, are you in favor of the motion?
Absolutely.
Councillor Roux?
No, I am not in favor of the motion for the reasons previously stated.
Yep. Okay. Councillor McPhail?
Opposed.
Councillor Clausen?
In favor.
Councillor Ledway?
Not in favor.
Opposed.
Okay, the motion is defeated.
For recording purposes, since it was recorded, what was your vote, Mayor?
Oh, I voted in favor.
In favor, okay.
Yep.
Just for the minutes.
Okay, I guess we're decided where we're going. Okay, we'll move to business. The request for decision on 23 capital amendment. Trevor, do you any comments other than what we've got?
I mean, basically, if you look at it, we're pushing one of our main renovations. We're not ready to proceed any further with it as of yet. There's a couple items that we inadvertently missed out on from last year that putting it in the budget. So this addresses that as well. We've also removed a couple items that we actually did purchase last year before the end of the year. They were on both budgets. And we got them so late in the year that we got them after the last budget had passed. All in all, there's it's still a very good budget, and I believe it's on the right track to get everything done that we need.
Yep. That's good. Any other comments? Not, we'll call the...
Nice to see that we're modernizing our financials bit by bit as you slog your way through it. So thank you for doing the hard work that I'm sure is happening behind the scenes.
Motion to accept?
I'll move.
Seconder?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, motion carried. Okay, we'll move to the tangible assets. Just keeping up with all the changes, I guess.
We don't actually have a policy as of just right now for tangible capital assets. So this more or less takes what we're doing and putting it into a policy. I believe it captures everything that we need to capture on that as well.
I threw in, it looks great, I have to say, thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
Motion to accept.
So moved.
Councillor Clausen.
Second.
Councillor Pizarro. All in favor? Motion carried. Okay, we got a request for a decision, food vendor, Ella's Kitchen.
This is a development permit application for temporary use to allow a food vendor in the form of a food truck to operate at 4 locations from June 3rd to October 1st of this year. The locations include the Elks Fairgrounds for duration of the Elks Fair, on the urban reserve property owned by Lac La Ronge Indian Band, adjacent to the post office in the downtown, in the parking lot of the Mill Hegland Uniplex facility, and the Lake Country Co-op gas bar property on Brown Street. Proof of permission from the Lac La Ronge Indian Band as well as Lake Country Co-op has been provided to the town, and business licenses have been issued by both the town and the band. The applicant would operate from 12 p.m. noon to 6 p.m. Friday to Sunday, and Monday through Thursday during special events only. So the applicant has met the town's requirements associated with the temporary town zoning bylaw. In addition, administration has no objection to allowing food vendor as a permitted temporary use on private property in the C2 zoning district. The applicant has also discussed her use of the Mel Hagman Uniplex parking lot with the manager of community services, and subject to area in the center of the parking lot, out of the way of town staff, vehicles, and equipment. Furthermore, the applicant has agreed she would not operate here during a special event in which a food service is being provided as part of that event. So administration is recommending approval. The council approve issuance of the development permit. In addition, direction is sought to zoning bylaw to permit as a temporary use in the C2, so that's the highway commercial, M1 light industrial, M2 general zoning districts. So currently, food vendor is not permitted in any of those zoning districts. And so just to be clear, the applicant is actually requesting to be in the C2 zone at the Co-op Gas Bar only, and that is not presently permitted. But if council is amenable, staff would bring forward an amendment that would see. Staff would note that while it's difficult to anticipate traffic generation and resultant parking needs for a business of this nature, the applicant does meet the requirements for discretionary use for home-based business in accordance with the zoning bylaw, and administration is going to recommend approval of the development permit for this home-based business subject to a condition that any undue traffic generation and resultant parking requirements generated by the business as determined by the town will result in the cancellation of the development permit and business license for the business at this location, and that the applicant seek an appropriately zoned commercial business.
I'll second.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Okay. There's a home-based business, request for decision 1503 Bedford Drive, that's the apartment.
I'll move that council proceed with option A.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
I'll say a few words, Jeff.
Staff will just note that that staff met with the applicant to provide information related to health authority requirements related to a business of this nature, but and we've actually indicated, we would indicate in the development permit that they satisfy those requirements as part of it. We're not.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good idea to go through.
Absolutely.
That. Okay.
Price for. So we haven't factored those in, but the typical tables, chairs, and power box is all included in that in-kind support request that we'd be assisting with for the festival.
Okay.
I'll move that council approve a grant to the Lac La Ronge Regional Pride Committee in the amount of $2,000 plus $209.30 of in-kind support for the purposes of conducting the 2023. Council approve the raising of the pride flag at the Patterson Park flagpole and the pride flag be flown for the entire month of June. And further, that council approve a single lane of traffic along La Ronge Avenue from the Lac La Ronge Indian Band office to Patterson Park for the Pride Parade on June 24th, 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. And further, that June be proclaimed Pride Month in the town of La Ronge and Treaty 6 homeland of the Woodland Métis in the province of Saskatchewan.
I'll second.
Seconder. Councillor Clausen. All in favor of the motion? Okay. Carried. Okay, how do we get on with
I'll
the
text her.
Joy?
That could be the lottery company phoning me.
Could be.
It's fun. Oh, not likely.
Okay, we have a request for a decision on lands and waterways.
I don't know if you would like administration to speak. You can take any questions with regards to the report. Administration just looked at the request and looked at the existing agreement, and there isn't necessarily a plan in place in terms of how they will rebuild their operation, let alone absorb the extra loan costs. So we were recommending that we simply, which would be to put the matter to bed and not have to chase them for this on an ongoing basis. However, noting that we have also prepared that loan bylaw if that is how council wishes to proceed.
I'd prefer the one-time payment and be done with it where the debt is owed, needs to be paid, so I'm comfortable with making a motion that council proceed with option A for the one-time in the amount of $25,000.
Just,
I'll second.
thank you. Just kind of one question, is there kind of any strings attached to that? Is there going to be any expectations from the ranch?
That would be up to council.
Just in you know, sitting in this particular council chair, in regards to that, I think that one, Woodlands and Waterways receiving help with this debt repayment with no strings sets you up for a very good AGM. And will allow Woodlands and Waterways to start to move forward in a way, getting creative, shedding the past, leaving it there so that better decisions, good decisions can be made moving forward, as well as executing or operating in the spirit and word of the agreement, the MOU that exists. I think that this sets the stage to be able to move forward, and I think that our representatives on the board currently can ensure that the previously wishes of the council are brought to the table and heeded by the board.
Thank you.
I think for myself, I would not be in favor of a loan. I would have supported a grant based on the fact that it's a tough budget. There's not much money there. And to expect that they're going to, if all that money was lent out and paid over a 3-year period, they'd be paying $20,000 a year. And you put that on a budget that's already struggling. And I guess the other point I'd like to make is lots of the arts and crafts that are in there are showcased from the community. And I'm not really in favor of going up to 40%, and which would have been, if you're looking at trying to find these $20,000 to meet your budget, that's likely what would have had to happen. But if we bail, and I guess the other thing, I don't know, fair, like, Air Rouge led the way, and they thinking about reconsidering and doing a grant as opposed to, have you had that conversation with them?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Around that, because it hadn't been discussed at our council table prior to that, so we can bring that suggestion forth to Ron's council at the AGM, if that's what council wishes.
I guess at some point, to get the three communities together, whether but we all need to be in the same room if we're going to get this thing back on track. And basically draw the line and say these are the expectations and these are the rules, and I know the board has to be, but we also need to, as the three communities, we have to hear it out.
I think personally, I'm excited for the AGM that's coming up. I did attend the Art in the Park festivities, which gave me the opportunity to have a talk with a couple individuals that said they would come to the AGM, and I think would be great assets to the board if they could join. Right, they got great knowledge within tourism, and one is in tourism and retail, which is really exciting. So I think that this going forward could be good. The AGM is on the 31st.
31st of May?
Of May, yes.
Okay. And what time?
7 o'clock. Yes. And yeah, for sure, it's open to the community. I hope we get a good attendance.
Motion on the floor, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. 40.
Motion to make it?
A second.